According to Masahiro Ito on one of his Twitter threads relating to James Sunderland, Team Silent chose to make James Sunderland forgetful of his crime and gradually remember as the game progressed. This was done so the player could explore the city alongside James's mindset. The save menu shows a picture of James's face stained, with a heavy emphasis on the color red. It could be speculated that this theme could represent anger or blood, possibly referencing that of the murder of Mary. His face also appears to be blurred by water, one of the heavy themes presented during Silent Hill 2 when you are, for example, the Fog World Lakeview Hotel when entering the bar where water is present, or the defeat of Pyramid Head in the first boss fight where he submerges himself in water. At the beginning of Silent Hill 2, the player will find James laying his right hand on the front of his face to check if he is in reality or if this is all a dream. It's possible James may struggle with dissociative periods, especially derealization, the feeling of being detached from your environment. Derealization inhibits symptoms of the following: perceiving your surroundings as dreamlike, unreal, distant, or distorted. It also serves as foreshadowing and symbolism of James's mental state, unable to determine fantasy from reality. After a first playthrough of the main scenario, Letter from Silent Heaven, if the player were to start a new playthrough, they would most likely come to find the chainsaw at Silent Hill Ranch. After equipping the chainsaw as a weapon and killing a monster, James can do an animation where he lifts the chainsaw above his head and screams. If the player stands passively while idle with the chainsaw equipped, he will set it down blade first and lean on it like a cane. One of the more unheard of animations that players may not know about is that James can actually trip while walking about the environment during gameplay. For example, here's James walking up the stairs and then proceeding to walk backward, where he then does the following animation, landing on his back and getting up quickly. In recent theories, it can be speculated that because James had recently killed Mary, her corpse is actually in the trunk of James's car at the beginning of the game. The Book of Lost Memories, a secret item found in West Southvale, alludes to this and the novelization in this section. Justice, Book of Lost Memories, affirms this with the in-water ending. Furthermore, Masahiro Ito stated that he believed Mary's body was actually in the back seat of James's car. When questioned how James didn't notice her corpse, Ito replied that James had repressed the memory of her murder. James's voice actor, Guy Sihi, has added to Ito's statement, believing that having his dead wife in the back seat as he drives into the lake is more consistent with the common Japanese way of Miyori Shinju. The origin behind the name, James Sunderland, is most likely inspired by Jacob, from Jacob's Ladder, a film that has had a massive influence on Team Silent in the creation of Silent Hill 2, as well as their other games for the series. James appears to have many similarities to the film's protagonist, Jacob Singer, in that they both wear an M65 olive drab military jacket. They both grapple with guilt, lust, and lost marriage, and finally, the psychological horror of their own mental psyche. James's beta design depicts him with slicked back brown hair. This hairstyle resembles that of Harry Mason, the previous protagonist of Silent Hill 1. In the dog ending, it is revealed that James has a tattoo of a heart on his left arm. Funnily enough, this image would be taken out of context and be used as a meme within the Silent Hill community. When inside the Woodside Apartments, after receiving the pistol from the shopping cart, James eventually finds himself hearing a scream across the hallway on the second floor. When entering the room heard with a scream, there is a body of a man's deceased corpse sitting in front of a TV displaying static. In an interview with the game's art director, Masashi Sumboyama, in the documentary The Making of Silent Hill 2, states that the deceased corpse sitting in the chair is James himself, a figment of James's imagination. We can also get a clearer look at this deceased corpse by manipulating the camera, which shows more of the character model from the front view, affirming this statement. While in the Blue Creek Apartments, inside room 209, if the player listens closely to the audio, you can hear a whisper that says the following: "See my dead wife, and come home. Do some laundry, do some." According to Japanese translator Jeremy Balstein, when asked about the mysterious whisper in an interview, he believes it was just one of the voice actors talking to himself in the recording booth. While in Toluca prison, James must find 3 tablets required for the gallows puzzle. One of these tablets is the Oppressor. It's been confirmed that this tablet is a representation of James's sins. During the cutscene with Angela on the burning staircase, James says, "It's hot as hell in here." He then proceeds to raise his right hand to his face. If the player were to hack the cutscene's camera and change the angle facing James, he is shown wiping his eye. It can be speculated that James may be weeping for Angela or wiping a tear away, as he can do nothing to stop her and can only watch her walk upstairs in defeat as the fire consumes her. In Silent Hill 3, James appears briefly in the UFO ending. He is seen first hiding behind a curtain in Harry and Heather Mason's apartment. He is later seen also holding a wooden board, which Harry karate chops with his foot. James is alluded to by Heather in an optional cutscene while in the shopping mall. When Heather begins to dislodge a toilet, she immediately stops and says, "Forget it, this is way too gross." She then proceeds to break the fourth wall by staring at the player and asks, "Who would even think of doing something so disgusting?"
Forget it. This is way too gross. Who would even think of doing something so disgusting?
This cutscene is a reference to when James is in the Blue Creek apartments and stumbles upon a toilet, where he puts his hand inside of it to get a passcode for the locker puzzle. In the Silent Hill Shattered Memories UFO ending, James is seen comically interrupting Cheryl Mason and Dr. Kaufman's appointment. He asks if he has the wrong day again for his appointment, to which Dr. Kaufman tells him his appointment is the following day. Once James leaves, Dr. Kaufman explains to Cheryl that James is one of his couple therapy patients, commenting on how he hasn't seen his wife in a while. A few seconds later, James can once again be seen spying on Mira the dog and the alien behind the chair as he peeks over. In Silent Hill Downpour, James makes a cameo in the joke ending, where he surprises the protagonist, Murphy Pendleton, with cake, alongside other characters from the previous Silent Hill installments. James appears alongside Mary in the joke ending of Silent Hill Book of Memories. They appear in the streets of Silent Hill and are accidentally sneezed on by another character, which frustrates James. James becomes worried about Mary, saying she might catch something, to which Mary replies that he worries too much, a reference to Mary's illness in Silent Hill 2. In the Silent Hill comic, Hunger, James appears alongside Mary. An image is shown of James and Mary by Toluca Lake. In the crossover with Dead by Daylight in Silent Hill, there is the Silent Hill chapter, featuring Cheryl Mason as the playable survivor and Pyramid Head as the playable killer. This features James Sunderland in later updates as an unlockable cosmetic skin for Cheryl Mason. According to the game's lore, James is transported into the Dead by Daylight universe by a creature known as the Entity and reunites with Pyramid Head. On the topic of Dead by Daylight, there was an infamous glitch that the player could receive with both the player models of Cheryl Mason and James Sunderland being combined together. In the now-defunct PlayStation Home for the PlayStation 3, James Sunderland can be seen as an unlockable avatar for the player to use. James appears in the Pachinko Packy slot game Silent Hill, an adaptation of Silent Hill 2.
It doesn't matter who I am. I'm here for you, James. See? I'm real.
While not confirmed, we can assume that the visual design of Maria was based on Christina Aguilera's appearance at the 1999 Teen Choice Awards. Coincidentally, Aguilera's middle name is also Maria. In the documentary, The Making of Silent Hill 2, it's mentioned by one of the developers that they gave Maria's midriff a little bit of flab to humanize her. The image here shows her lower abdomen sticking out a little bit. Team Silent was known for their approach to adding attention to details such as flab, spots on the skin, freckles, eye bags, etc. to the cast of characters seen in the series, to make them feel more realistic and believable as everyday human beings in their appearance. There is the recurrence of the butterfly and moth symbolism surrounding Maria in the game. She has a butterfly tattoo on her abdomen. In most cultures, butterflies represent rebirth. This can coincide with Maria being the rebirth of Mary. In the final boss fight, Mary or Maria, depending on the ending, attacks with a swarm of black moths, typically seen as a symbol of death in some cultures. Maria is the first playable female character in the main series, as she's playable in her separate scenario, Born from a Wish. However, she's not the first female protagonist. This would be Heather Mason in Silent Hill 3. If we want to go through such lengths, however, then Sybil Bennett is technically the first playable female character, though only in a spin-off game that was available only in Japan. called Silent Hill play novel. The name Maria is the Latin term for Mary, often used to refer to the Virgin Mary in most traditional Latin songs and compositions. In Lost Memories, the art and music of Silent Hill, a photo of Laura and Maria can be seen sitting on the wall where James would find Laura after the first boss fight with Pyramid Head. However, what's interesting is that Maria and Laura never once are seen interacting during the main story. This is most likely known by everyone who played Silent Hill 2, but can be missed easily. The player can see that there are posters of Maria in the bathrooms at the beginning of Silent Hill 2. Once in the other world, Brookhaven Hospital, if the player were to return to Maria's hospital room, it's possible to hear a very ominous and disturbing sound of a heartbeat and heavy breathing, possibly a reference to Mary's illness when she was in the hospital. While in Toluca Prison, you at some point have to head to the gallows platform to solve a puzzle. There is imagery that shows two executioners, wearing triangle-shaped helmets, holding spears, with a person in the middle hanged by a noose. This is foreshadowing to Maria being killed by the two Pyramid Heads. If the player were to hack the game, it can allow Maria to accompany James throughout the rest of the game. If you install the cheat system or downloaded a hacked save file to your PS2, the player can hack the old bronze key in their inventory, allowing Maria and James to enter the Silent Hill Historical Society and skip the entire hospital level where Maria dies. There's also two Marias in the jail cell scene while in the labyrinth, and Maria floating above James during the boat ride to Lakeview Hotel. In the Silent Hill HD collection, when Maria is impaled by the two Pyramid Heads before the boss fight with the Pyramid Head duo, there is a possibility of seeing a glitch. The texture of her teeth briefly replaces the texture of her right eye. In Silent Hill 3, if a memory card of a Silent Hill 2 save file is being used, Heather Mason finds a poster in Heaven's Night of a woman with long dark hair. This reads, "Return of Lady Maria." This could suggest that Maria's appearance was based on a dancer in Heaven's Night and the making of Silent Hill 2. Takeyoshi Sato, the CGI creator of Silent Hill and Silent Hill 2, stated that Maria had bleached her hair from brunette to blonde and added pink tips. Maria makes an appearance as an unlockable cosmetic skin in Dead by Daylight for Cheryl Mason. Maria also appears in the pachinko packy-slot game Silent Hill.
Excuse me,
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I didn't mean to scare you. I'm kind of lost.
Lost?
After James meets Angela in a cutscene, the player can walk back to her for two additional dialogues. In the first dialogue, James tells Angela, "It sure is quiet here, huh?" To which she replies, "I guess." In the second dialogue, Angela catches James staring at her and asks him, "Aren't you looking for someone?" To which James replies, "That's right." Angela is voiced by Donna Burke, who later voiced the main antagonist, Claudia Wolf, in Silent Hill 3. What's interesting to note is that both characters were severely abused by their fathers. Both Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill 3 involve a boss fight against their respective fathers, albeit as a monstrous manifestation in the Otherworld. The documentary, Making of Silent Hill 2, claims that Angela was supposed to be 16 or 17 years old. However, later down the line during development, the design team decided to make Angela look older and opted for an older voice actress. While this is speculation on my part, I remember when I first played Silent Hill 2 and misinterpreted Angela for being older than 19. Angela appears on the retail cover of Silent Hill 2 for the NTSC version and the Silent Hill experience. While in the Blue Creek apartments, once you enter room 109, the player can find two doors that are clearly different from each other. One door on the left is boarded up and dark, while the other one is white and clear to see. This could possibly represent the loss of one's innocence in childhood and adolescence, as there's a teddy bear next to the dark door. The white door can be interpreted as Angela's desire to repress the dark memories of her youth, considering her past traumatic childhood, and room 109, in the room Angela was. If the player examines the floor in a certain spot, a photo can be found of a family, which is most likely Angela's family. The photo shows a mother, father, daughter, and brother. implying that Angela may have been a little girl when she was abused, and that she ripped the photo out of disdain for her father and brother. The 3 tablets in Toluca Prison represent James Sunderland, Eddie Dombrowski, and Angela Orozco. Angela's sin was murdering her father, while Eddie murdered a dog, and James murdered Mary. Angela's tablet is the Seductress, which is found inside a shower stall. In the Abstract Eddie boss fight, one could speculate that there are many holes with pistons inside of them, which move with a slow thrusting motion. The walls around the room appear to be made out of flesh or raw meat. These details could be a physical representation of the sexual abuse inflicted on Angela. It's also important to note that James does not see the Abstract Daddy the same way that Angela does. According to Masahiro Ito, he believes that if they show the Abstract Daddy from Angela's perspective, she would not have been as interesting as a character. He stated that leaving elements to the player's imagination is often a more effective storytelling mechanism. In Silent Hill 3, Heather Mason encounters a closer feeding on a woman's body in the Central Square shopping center in a cutscene. After killing the closer with a pistol, the player can walk up to the deceased woman's body. Upon closer inspection, one can find that the face can clearly resemble Angela's, but her hair is shorter and her clothes are of different colors. This is a reused asset model of Angela's, just slightly modified.
Bye-bye.
Wait! Come back! Eddie, let's go after her.
Huh? Laura? But why?
Laura. Is that her name?
That's what she said.
This town is full of monsters. How can you sit there and eat pizza?
Eddie's last name is Polish. A common name is Jarabrowski, hinting that he may be of Polish descent. When the player first meets Eddie in the Woodside Apartments, once you enter the room he is located in, you can find a deceased corpse lying in the fridge, alluding to the idea that Eddie may have killed this unknown person. However, according to Masahiro Ito, Eddie only killed the dog and shot a person in the knee. The bodies that appear in his scenes are merely delusions. After the cutscene, when you are first introduced to Eddie, you can re-enter the room to find across the room where James first meets Eddie, a room filled with football posters. In this room, there's a poster that has "Physical Beauty" written on it. This most likely is a reference to themes of body image and body dysmorphia. Like the others, that being James and Angela, the tablet of Gluttonous Pig represents Eddie. This is likely due to his eating disorder with his obsession with food, as seen previously. In the novelization, as Eddie dies, there is a disturbing scene described to the reader that has a pack of 4 large dogs gathering around him, ripping at his torn stomach and pulling out his intestines. Eddie notes they are all the same as the dog he killed back in his hometown. However, it is unknown if this actually happened, or it's just merely a dying hallucination as James never comments on it in the novelization. Mira the dog is known to not like Eddie. When Eddie is shown during the credits of the dog ending, Mira growls at him angrily. This is possibly a reference to Eddie killing a dog, which is why Mira has a disliking to him. According to the making of Silent Hill 2, Eddie's physical model was borrowed from the creator's friend. In the game's novelization, the revolver that Eddie used to shoot the football player and kill the dog was his father's. Eddie appears in the pachinko packy slot game Silent Hill.
You! It was you, wasn't it? You're the one who stepped on my hand.
I don't know. Maybe I did.
What's a little girl like you doing here anyway?
Huh? Are you blind or something?
There's a high chance Laura's outfit was inspired by the character Casey Poe in the movie Con Air. Taking a look at both characters' outfits side by side, it's hard not to say otherwise. Laura may have a liking and fondness for teddy bears, and born from a wish, Maria comments about how Laura loves teddy bears. However, Maria quickly comments, "Laura, who am I talking about?" This alludes to how Maria has Mary's memories intact, even though Laura and Maria never once met. Before the boss fight with the flesh lips, James finds Laura playing with teddy bears. In the official Silent Hill 2 soundtrack, there's a song called The Reverse Will. If you were to play it in reverse, Laura recites a popular bedtime prayer. She says the following: "Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take." Take a listen for yourself. In one of the early Silent Hill 2 trailers, Laura's sitting on the wall, singing Ring Around the Rosie, before James approaches her. Elle Holloway from Silent Hill Homecoming was originally supposed to be an older version of Laura. She also would have worn James's jacket during the boat ride with Alex Shepard, the main protagonist. However, the idea was scrapped during production. Laura makes a cameo appearance alongside James, Mary, a bubblehead nurse, and Pyramid Head in the surprise ending of Silent Hill Downpour. Much like the other characters, Laura also appears in the pachinko packy slot game, Silent Hill.
Are you taping again? Come on. I don't know why, but I just love it here. It's so peaceful. You know what I heard? This whole area used to be a sacred place. I think I can see why. It's too bad we have to leave. Please promise you'll take me again, James.
Both Mary and Maria are voiced by the same voice actress, Monica Taylor Hogan, which is why they both sound very similar if you listen closely to their voices.
In my restless dreams, I see that town. Silent Hill. You promised you'd take me there again someday, but you never did.
No, you're not.
Do I look like your girlfriend?
No, my late wife. I can't believe it. You could be her twin. Your face, your voice, just your hair and clothes are different.
My name is Maria.
Mary is voiced by Mary Elizabeth McGlenn in the Silent Hill HD collection. According to McGlenn, she felt her voice was way too deep to play Mary, but producers casted her role anyway. McGlenn is also the lead vocalist in many of the Silent Hill soundtracks in the series. There's the possibility that Mary's outfit, alongside with Laura's outfit, was inspired by two characters in the movie Con Air. While it is known that Mary contracted an illness before the events of Silent Hill 2, it's never explicitly stated what disease she suffered from, nor how she obtained it. Looking at Mary's character model, we can get the impression that it caused lumps on her skin and hair loss. It possibly could be a form of cancer. The voice actor for James Sunderland, Guy Seehey, believes it to be melanoma. After James first encounters the lying figure and kills it with a wooden plank, he discovers the radio, only to hear the inaudible voice of Mary. Mary appears to be saying, "James, I'm here. Come to me, James. I'm waiting for you. Why did you kill me? James." This can be listened to if ripped from the game disc in a pre-release version of Silent Hill 2.
I'm here. Come to me. James, I'm waiting for you. Why did you kill me? James.
What the?
When James receives the letter from Laura in the Lakeview Hotel, originally there was audio of Mary reading her letter to Laura, but it was removed from the final version for unknown reasons.
My dearest Laura, I'm leaving this letter with Rachel to give to you after I'm gone. I'm far away now, in a quiet, beautiful place. Please forgive me for not saying goodbye before I left. Be well, Laura. Don't be too hard on the sisters. And Laura, about James. I know you hate him because you think he isn't nice to me. But please, give him a chance. It's true he may be a little surly sometimes, and he doesn't laugh much. But underneath, he's really a sweet person. Laura, I love you like my very own daughter. If things had worked out differently, I was hoping to adopt you. Happy 8th birthday, Laura. Your friend forever, Mary.
Masahiro Ito reveals that most of the creatures' mouths in Silent Hill 2 represent Mary's insanity due to her terminal illness. In the final boss fight with either Mary or Maria, depending on the ending, it's possible to not have to deal any damage to Mary and instead wait 5 minutes by running around, avoiding her attacks until she falls into her death state. However, you must get rid of all your ammunition for any of the weapons you are carrying before proceeding with the strategy. It may just be a coincidence, but it's interesting to note that Mary shares a connection with the Shepard family in Silent Hill Homecoming. The most notable family member is Alex Shepard. The producer of Silent Hill Homecoming, Tom Hewlett, was asked about the connection between these two characters in an interview. He admitted to not being entirely sure, but it was probably a coincidence. In a promotional diary for Silent Hill Homecoming, there's a document on Mary Shepard. Alex questions to himself in his notes saying, "Was she related to me?" Mary is referenced by Heather Mason in Silent Hill 3. In the Daisy Villa apartments, if the player has a Silent Hill 2 save file on their memory card and examines one of the mailboxes, Heather says, "There's no letter, from a dead wife or otherwise. Well, I don't have one of those anyway." Silent Hill 2 was a 2-year project based in Tokyo, Japan, with over 50 people working on its development. Even though Silent Hill 1 sold very well, with over 1 million copies sold, the team behind Silent Hill 2's development felt it was important to push the Silent Hill series and the horror genre even further with the sequel. Masahiro Tsuboyama, the art director for Silent Hill 2, explains his process of capturing the atmosphere in an interview. Quote, "Creating a world that would really disturb the game players whilst attracting them. Something with an aura of mystery. Many of the locations seen in the town of Southvale are inspired by the real-life location of San Bruno, California." Masahiro Tsuboyama traveled to California to gather references and gain an idea of how to shape and create the town of Silent Hill 2 you explore throughout the gameplay. During E3 2001, the marketing of Silent Hill 2 saw a booth where people could visit and play the E3 trial version. While here, attendees can notice a mannequin of James and Laura on top of a wall. The events that take place in most mainline Silent Hill games are rather vague and left ambiguous. It's never explicitly told nor confirmed to the player as to when each game takes place. However, if we take Masahiro Ito's word into account, he recounts the events of Silent Hill 2, which are set in the late 1970s or early 1980s. Much of the streets and buildings seen in South Vale were inspired and named after real writers, stories, and locations. According to Akira Yamaoka, the series composer, he took recordings of over 100 footsteps specifically for the gameplay. In the documentary, Making of Silent Hill 2, he states that this was done to add variety and avoid repetition. He also claims that silence was important as it added to much of the game's atmosphere. The footsteps were meant to contribute to the lack of music and create tension. Many ambient sounds in the game are completely random and the sounds tend to be different in every playthrough. For example, there are random chances of the player hearing footsteps, whispering, glass shattering, breathing, crying, and screaming on various occasions. In the later half of development, Silent Hill 2 had some aspects changed or edited out entirely due to graphic violence or nausea-inducing scenes in gameplay. For example, James's original attack animations included dismemberment of the limbs of the monsters, but it was changed to melee and ranged weapon attacks. The cutscene where you first meet Eddie vomiting was initially more intense, both graphically and audibly. In the original version of the videotape James watches where it's revealed he killed his wife Mary, initially had an audio recording where you can hear Mary scream in fear and panic as she is suffocated by James. However, it was left out in the final cut of the game. Although Silent Hill 2 isn't a direct sequel to the first game, there are some references to Silent Hill 1. This includes the mention of Old Silent Hill, the town Harry is seen exploring after he wakes up from his car crash. A weird-looking square notepad similar in appearance to the save point for Harry. Harry also makes a cameo appearance in the UFO ending, where he's seen helping the aliens abduct James Sunderland. The Lakeside amusement park is also referenced. Many of the facial animations seen in the game are not motion captured, but rather manually animated by hand. The plot of Silent Hill 2 is based on the novel Crime and Punishment. The novel similarly sees a protagonist who undergoes mental anguish and moral dilemmas. The protagonist kills an old woman to reap her money and valuable objects, and convinces himself that certain crimes are justifiable if they're committed to remove obstacles to achieve the higher goals of extraordinary men. However, he struggles with guilt and is confronted with both the horror of eternal and external consequences of his deed. At some point, Konami will lose the source code to Silent Hill 2, which is one of the reasons why the Silent Hill HD collection had many technical issues. Because of this predicament, they had to use the only source code available to them, which was an unused beta version of Silent Hill 2. A Pakistan adaptation of Silent Hill 2 was released in Japan in 2015, self-titled Silent Hill. On the topic of the Pakistan adaptation, there are a couple of differences that deviate from the original Silent Hill 2. In the Pakistan version, we see James and Maria visit a local bar run by a working bartender. This also introduces a new monster called the Chariot, which is never seen in the original game. Silent Hill 2 initially had fewer monsters in the original game. According to Masahiro Ito, this was an intentional decision on his part, as he believed that James Sunderland's story arc didn't need as many monsters, such as Alessa Gillespie, for comparison. He would admit he later regretted including 9 monsters because he felt it was best to only have 5 or 6. There is unofficial artwork of a muscular James Sunderland with abs, accompanied by seemingly zombies or demons clawing his clothes apart. This unofficial artwork was used to promote Silent Hill 2 on a PlayStation magazine in June 2001. According to Masahiro Ito, the early design of the lying figure was inspired by BDSM fashion, and the final design was influenced by the works of Francis Bacon's paintings. He would go on to state that he created the monsters of Silent Hill 2 with human characteristics in mind, then separated the designs and animations to create an uncanny valley effect. This can be seen in the movements of the lying figure. The movement of the lying figure was inspired by one of his co-workers wearing a jacket while walking to work one day. Masahiro Ito created a lying figure variant that seems to have a pyramid head-like attire in the back of its clothing and wear high heels. The corpse in the alleyway where James obtains the apartment gate key eerily resembles a lying figure, albeit wearing clothing, upon closer inspection. In the Silent Hill Historical Society, there's a painting titled Death by Skewering, depicting lying figures being impaled by tree branches. While in the other world, if the player attempts to revisit the underpass where you kill the first lying figure, the area will be blocked off by police tape. In the art of Silent Hill, there's an image of beta lying figures where they seem to have mouths. In the final version, they don't have any. If we take a look at the models of lying figures, they have zippers on their heads. In Silent Hill 3, there's a creature briefly seen near an elevator. This creature reuses assets from a lying figure. The mannequins look like they resemble the dolls by Polish/German artist Hans Bellmer when compared side by side. However, Masahiro Ito stated that his inspiration for the mannequin came from monsters in traditional Japanese folklore, although he wouldn't specify which one in particular. Originally, the mannequins were only intended to appear in the cutscene where Pyramid Head abuses them when James stumbles upon the act. However, they would later be integrated as enemies that appear in gameplay. After meeting Maria at Rosewater Park, if the player were to immediately head toward the direction of Silent Hill Historical Society, you would audibly stumble upon these 2 mannequins who would jump out of the bushes and attack James and Maria. In the book manual for Silent Hill 2, there's an image that shows James carrying Mary in the halls of Toluca Prison. Above them is surreal imagery of thousands of mannequins floating and making contact with the ceiling. In the early sketch of the flesh slip, the flesh slip's mouth was instead a protuberance. It can be speculated that the flesh slip resembles the artwork of Francis Bacon, a known influence on Masahiro Ito. In Francis Bacon's artworks, He usually places subjects in geometric cages with deformed appendages. Masahiro Ito revealed that the flesh slip is inspired by Isamu Noguchi's death lynched figure, and Joel Peter Whitkin's photograph Man with No Legs. The flesh slip would later make an appearance in the spin-off title Silent Hill Book of Memories. The flesh slip would act as a recurring enemy in gameplay. A bit of an oddity when it comes to the monsters of Silent Hill 2 are the creepers. They don't have much of an overarching relevance to James Sunderland, symbolically speaking. According to Lost Memories Silent Hill Chronicle, the creepers in Silent Hill 2 are potentially derived from the power of the town itself, a lingering effect from the previous events of Silent Hill 1. Alessa Gillespie had a dislike of insects, which would be manifested by the town of Silent Hill. It's important to note that the creepers are not among the 9 monsters manifested from James Sunderland's mental psyche. Masahiro Ito points out that the inclusion of the creepers was a homage to the first game. According to the Book of Lost Memories, the Mandarin symbolizes feelings of anguish and helplessness. For this reason, they're not permitted to stand above ground, but rather hang underneath mesh gratings. The novelization also mentions they originated from a desire to escape. In Silent Hill 3, there's a similarly looking monster that shares similar characteristics to the Mandarin. This monster would be the Closer. According to Masahiro Ito, the reason they look similar is because the Mandarin was one of the most underrated monsters of Silent Hill 2. When asked about how this could conflict with how James Sunderland or Heather Mason could share similar monsters, he states that their appearance was not just dependent on the person, but that the power of Silent Hill also had some input on the design of the monsters. During Silent Hill 2's development, there was the idea that the Bubblehead nurse's face mask was intended to burst like a balloon when receiving damage to the head. This ultimately would be scrapped. Their weapon was also going to be a blood transfusion stand. However, the change would be made to the Bubblehead nurse carrying their signature weapon of a pipe, a homage to Harry Mason, as one of his main weapons is a pipe as well. In Silent Hill 3, the Bubblehead nurses would once again reprise their appearance in Brookhaven Hospital when playing as Heather. When asked why the Brookhaven Hospital nurses in Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill 3 are distinct from one another, rather than looking like the design from Silent Hill 2, Masahiro Ito replied, because they had different protagonists. In the E3 trailer for Silent Hill 2, the Bubblehead nurses can be briefly seen in the streets of Southvale during the Fog World segments. This would not include them in the Fog World in the final game. Masahiro Ito drew inspiration for the design of the Bubblehead nurses' attire from The Exorcist 3, Jacob's Ladder, and BDSM bondage outfits. A Bubblehead nurse costume could be purchased as a avatar skin in the now defunct PlayStation Home. Masahiro Ito would make alternate variations of the Bubblehead nurses in his artwork. This artwork is called Acid Bubblehead Nurse. This artwork is called Bubble Twin Tail Nurse. And finally, this artwork is called Gas Mask Nurse. The Bubblehead nurses appear as a recurring enemy in the mobile spin-off title Silent Hill: The Escape. Bubblehead nurses also make an appearance as recurring enemies in the spin-off title Silent Hill: Book of Memories. They once again make another appearance, although as a guest character in Super Bomberman R as a playable character. Originally, Silent Hill 2 was going to have random unscripted encounters with Pyramid Head. The prototype demo features him stalking the streets of Southvale at night. In an early trailer of Silent Hill 2, James is seen hiding in the laundry room from Pyramid Head as he drags his great knife down the hallway. Pyramid Head was originally not going to obtain the Great Spear until after the player entered the Silent Hill Historical Society and saw the painting Misty Day: Remains of the Judgment. However, Team Silent had to include it earlier on because Pyramid Head could not swing the Great Knife in the narrow corridor of the Otherworld Brookhaven Hospital, where James and Maria had to escape him by reaching the elevator at the end of the corridor. To compensate for this issue, they had to include him with a Great Spear. In the Silent Hill 2 trailer, there's a scene of Pyramid Head dragging a Bubblehead nurse. The scene was originally going to appear at some point in Silent Hill 2, but it didn't make it past the censorship. The name Pyramid Head is never spoken once in Silent Hill 2. It is rather referred to as Red Pyramid Thing. However, James can still call him Pyramid Head if the player examines their impaled bodies after the second boss fight with the Pyramid Head duo. The name Pyramid Head is also listed in the descriptions for the eggs you collect after the Pyramid Head duo boss fight and when requiring the Great Knife in the Labyrinth. If you listen closely, when Pyramid Head attacks by thrusting his Great Spear, his grunt is identical to James's grunt when he is hit by an enemy. If the player positions a lying figure in front of Pyramid Head, he will attack it. Interestingly enough, Masahiro Ito disagreed with the decision to introduce Pyramid Head in the hallway behind the bars where James first meets him in the Woodside apartments. He instead preferred to introduce him in the mannequin scene where James hides in the closet. In Silent Hill 3, there is a figure resembling Pyramid Head that appears in the Creation painting. Supposedly, this was a production mistake from the painter, as he didn't consult the core team members about this inclusion. In the Pyramid Head duo boss fight, it's possible to kill both Pyramid Heads simultaneously with a great knife, if positioned correctly. However, it's no easy feat and very hard to perform. The 3-minute short film titled Fukuro, which is Japanese for bag or sack, is a disturbing and surreal animation of notable monsters from Silent Hill 2. It features Pyramid Head and a lying figure. The main character, the Fukuro lady, interacts with them in disturbing graphic positions. It also features monsters that didn't make it through the final development, as seen here from early sketches, originally intended for Silent Hill 2. To put it lightly, it's nonsensical and doesn't have much of a plot to follow, mostly just body horror that is realized through this surreal and disturbing imagery. According to Masahiro Ito, he states that the meaning behind the film is his imagination of the womb in an abstract nature. The red cross you'd see displayed when James is in low health on the PC version is actually the image of the graffiti-covered wall where Laura sits reading the letter from Mary. According to the Book of Lost Memories, one of the pictures in the Silent Hill Historical Society is the game's development team. In Toluca Prison, the cafeteria displays a portrait of the cafeteria hanging on the back wall. If you were to view it closely, the picture shows that of a corpse in clothing that is very similar to James's outfit while in Toluca Prison in the women's bathroom. If the player knocks on a stall door and walks away, you may hear a sudden scream of a woman falling down, followed by a crash. In the beginning of Silent Hill 2, we see James walk to the railing of the observation deck to observe Toluca Lake. The image you see displayed that is used as a backdrop for Toluca Lake is actually an edited photo of the real-life Derwent water in England. There is also a spelling error on one of the maps you find in gameplay, spelling Toluca Lake as Taruka Lake. Texan gas station, which is seen in Southvale by the bowling alley and Rosewater Park, is also unexpectedly seen in a Simpsons episode called Lisa Simpson, This Isn't Your Life. This could be a coincidence, but it's still quite bizarre to see, especially in Simpson of all things. At the entrance of Brookhaven Hospital, if you look very closely, the title is incorrectly spelled Brookhaven Hospital. This would later be corrected in later releases of Silent Hill 2 and the sequel, Silent Hill 3. In the Silent Hill Historical Society, there's a painting depicting Pyramid Head with other corpses, people who were tried for their crimes, resulting in execution and put in cages. This painting would initially be used as a 3D mock-up of actual character models, which would once again see Pyramid Head and the corpses. In the Lakeview Hotel, if James enters the lounge with his flashlight on and examines the heater, he will then find a note that says on the back, "I'm Johnny, one hot guy." This implies that the boiler caught a curtain on fire, which resulted in the Lakeview Hotel catching on fire and becoming abandoned. This can be supported by a painting in Toluca Prison that depicts the Lakeview Hotel on fire. Masahiro Ito also revealed that when James first enters Lakeview Hotel, it's the Otherworld version. After he finds out he killed Mary, he is then transported to the Fogworld version. If you look closely at the photos on the hotel bed by the briefcase and room 202, these are compressed images of the game's characters and enemies. One of the cut and unused content in Silent Hill 2 was originally a feature where the player could use a minimap, which would be displayed on the top right of the screen. The Church of the Rebirth can be briefly seen in the Rebirth ending, but it's possible to get James to the island by hacking the game. The area consists of a church sprite, many trees, and a dock. In the Lakeview Hotel, the player will find 9 red squares that serve as the final save point in the game. The official guidebook of Silent Hill 2 says the save point serves as James's memories no longer being repressed. Masahiro Ito has kept the meaning behind the red squares a secret, preferring to leave it open for interpretation by the player. However, in September 2020, he dropped a clue regarding the red squares. He says, "I don't want to say too much, and will leave it to your imagination basically. But, for example, what number of hallucinations did James see in the journey? If we reflect on James's journey, there are 9 monsters in Silent Hill 2 that are physical manifestations of his subconscious. This includes Pyramid Head, the Bubblehead Nurses, the Lying Figures, the Mannequins, the Mandarins, the Abstract Daddy, Flesh Lips, Maria, and finally Mary. Before the development of Silent Hill 2 was underway, there was a short demonstration demo that was used by Team Silent to show Konami the significant improvement in technical hardware that the PS2 provided. This demo shows an animation of Sybil Bennett from Silent Hill 1 walking around Cafe 5-2. This gave a better idea of what the team could work with such new graphical advancement in the PS2, that would eventually carry over to the development of Silent Hill 2. Originally, the logo of Silent Hill 2 was based on the logo from Silent Hill 1. It looks identical in its font, with the exception of the color hue being light green. This would later be changed to the logo we all know now today. Well, hi there. I hope you enjoyed this trivia of all these facts I presented today of Silent Hill 2. Even though this game has been out for over 2 decades now, there's always something fascinating I learn each time I play, and I hope I could provide something new for you that you didn't know about Silent Hill 2. If you guys like this facts video, please feel free to let me know if you like more facts on the Silent Hill series. Anyways, that's me. Thank you for watching, please have a great day, stay safe, and goodbye.